Hello, everyone. How is it going? Can we get an audio check? Can we have all our lovely guests say hello really quick? I just want to make sure we all can be heard.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Awesome. Okay, I think that we are good. We're going to start off with some introductions. This is the Qweerty Gamers Times Minecraft Q&A. We're so happy that Minecraft reached out to us during Pride Month. We are Qweerty Gamers. We are a 501c3 LGBTQ gamer nonprofit. We are almost 5 years old. My name is Ray. I'm the founder and CEO. And our mission is to provide resources and advocacy. And we also have a micro grant that provides money towards gamers that are making the industry more inclusive. Um, so, without further ado, I will let whoever wants to go first introduce themselves. Give me your name, your pronoun, your professional background, and a random fact about yourself.
Am I starting? All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Flanery. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the head of social media at Mojang Studios and for Minecraft. And a quirky fact about me, I really got into improv, and I've taken a lot of improv. So that is my quirky fact for you.
I used to go to theater school when I was younger, and I did something with like an Annie. And I was with a I think it was like Coleman Sachs or something. It was like a nonprofit that did theater. So we should talk about that later.
Definitely. It's a lot harder than it looks. I'll say that. I thought this will be easy. Not easy.
Who wants to go next?
I can go next. That sounds great. So, hi, I'm Kayla. My pronouns are she and her. I'm executive producer. I am an executive producer on Minecraft, specifically focusing on what we call the creator platform. So, I focus on all the features and things that our hobbyists and creators use to make all the content in the marketplace and the live events, like the Trails and Tales event that was on the weekend, and all the cool add-ons made by our Bedrock add-on community. So, random fact for me, I used to play roller derby, and so yes, that was a time long ago. But yeah, fun one.
That's
I
really
don't think I would
cool.
ever be able to do roller derby. That seems like a lot of work.
It was.
Well, I'm iPuppy or Pup Leaf. It's my pup name. My pronouns are pup, and interesting fact about me, I actually used to teach improv to corporate companies for like, I don't know, fun events that they wanted. I would teach sales, mostly sales teams because they thought that improv was a really good tool for them.
Okay, so we have a bunch of improvers in the house. I love that. Kayla, come on.
I've always wanted to do improv, so let's. How about that?
We'll have a crash course right now. We're canceling all of everything we decided to talk about. It's just going to be improv.
Great. I hear the number one
Perfect.
rule is just say yes to everything.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
and
and
Yes,
yes,
and
and
got it.
or or no, but.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that one. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves, and we're gonna move into some questions really quick. So, the first question I have here, and if you didn't know it, it's Pride Month, so a lot of these questions are going to be LGBTQIA plus related. Uh, I would like y'all to share something about your journey in the gaming industry, any notable accomplishments you faced or challenges that you faced as an LGBTQIA individual. And so this is going to be really useful for folks that are watching either live or later on, say on TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Anyone who wants to start as well. This is just like, you can also popcorn after if you want to put someone on the spot.
intro first.
I can go then. That's fine.
Go
That's
for
fine.
it.
Okay, so I came out as trans way back in 2002. I had just been working. I had just started my career at Electronic Arts at the time. That was a long time ago. So I didn't really start the industry as an LGBTQIA plus individual. I kind of came into that. I kind of discovered that of myself while I was starting my career there. Um, some of the challenges at that time were there wasn't a lot of kind of cultural awareness of trans individuals or kind of best practices on how to help. So at that time, I actually had to partner with the HR department at the game studio and figure out kind of policies and how I could be best supported by the company at the time. So I kind of felt like I was kind of the first through the door in a lot of ways there. And so thankfully they were really supportive. Thankfully, felt really well supported by EA and the folks that I was working with there, and kind of made it all work. But kind of felt like being that first person through was definitely a challenge.
I feel that. I'm new to gaming. I started my gaming career professionally with Mojang and Minecraft only about 8 or 9 months ago at this point. But my history is back in consumer products and retail, with a mix between like brand and social media. But I think, professional challenges being LGBTQ plus are probably not all that different. I think in corporate in general, we have them. I know I've been out since I started my career. So from my first job till now, I've always been out in corporate America. I've always been a part of employee resource groups. I think they're incredibly important for representation purposes if the company does it right. I'm proud to say the Rainbow Mob here at Mojang Studios does it very well. I think like setbacks are actually, I don't think there's as many setbacks as there were when I started out my career. I know when I started out my career, I was living in New Orleans, of all places. I'm from Southern California, but I had like picked up and left to go to New Orleans and try something completely different. And I worked for a company remotely based out of Jacksonville, Florida. So you could imagine the inclusivity was the curve there was they were very early on the adoption curve 10 years ago. I think the biggest thing I faced was tokenism. I've had all interesting fact. I've only had one male boss my entire career. Um, and pros and cons to that. I think pros of having females is just like stereotypically and was true. They were more inclusive than maybe a traditional heterosexual male in corporate America, which I don't know. I didn't experience that, so I can't comment. But my perception was it was more inclusive. But what came with that were things like, how do you like my outfit? Or let me tell you about my boyfriend. And I'm like, this is corporate and you're my boss. Like, great, but would you do that with a heterosexual male employee? So I faced that a little bit. As I've kind of risen the ranks, I think that's definitely stopped a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if more junior members starting up in kind of like those roles face that as well. So I think it's interesting balancing that because you don't want to like say, hey, boss, this is inappropriate, or it's challenging to do that. It takes courage while kind of getting your footing in a whole new world. It's very different from college, but I'd say that's kind of the challenge they face starting up. I'd say at Mojang, definitely not. Never felt that way. It's really wild. We have like an 80% female leadership team, I think, at this point. Our head of studio is female, so it's quite great to see the inclusivity in our studio.
That's impressive. And also, we will be talking a lot more about employee resource groups. I'm glad you mentioned that. And Rainbow Mob is just whoever came up with that's amazing. Also, your shirts, by the way, I don't know if you showed everyone your shirts. They're really cute. And I think were you both in the Pride Parade yesterday?
Made it with my. I have a boot right now, and I walked the 2 miles. It was quite. It was amazing, amazing time. We actually had a rainbow balloon creepers, like three of them. They were amazing and huge. It was a lot of fun.
I love it. Yay. Um, Pop, did you want to get into that
Um,
question for us?
I think that, well, I haven't really been in the gaming industry myself. I've been more so like nonprofit and like um, tech startups and stuff like that. I think that I've been in a very unique position working on in smaller teams where I've been able to kind of like put my foot down when it comes to some of the tokenization. um, because that's everywhere. uh, so I don't know. I've been in like very unique situations where I've been able to put my foot down and it be respected. And yeah, that's kind of my experience.
I'm glad to hear that. Yay, respect. Yeah, and I think I might answer this question too. So my background is gaming. I uh, I've never had the employee resource group, which makes me very sad. But I'm hoping that those studios had that now. I won't name any specifically, but I never. I had. It was a very like bro-y environment. I'm sure you have all experienced that at one point or another. And so I've definitely had the, oh, you're a cool gay, like you're like, oh, I can't tell, like, you're passing, like they didn't say passing. So I've definitely had to deal with the kind of, I know there's a phrase for it, but like the positive like discrimination. So yeah, there has been definitely a challenge, but I think. I think it's getting better, especially now that we're able to um, celebrate ourselves and be out in the workforce. Um, I would like to move on to this next question. How did you navigate the process of entering the game industry as an LGBTQIA person? Were there any resources that you used, any support networks, strategies? By the way, I'm going to write a blog about this. Usually, I love hearing these resources, so I'm really excited to see what if like which ones you name. Whoever wants to start first as well. I like popcorn. Uh, sh- sh- Pup, I know. So I know you're not in the gaming industry, but you do have nonprofit background. So do you think that there are any nonprofits, any resources that could help LGBTQIA people, especially in the gaming industry?
Well, I think like every center, like wherever,
Mhm.
because like this is kind of like digital universal right now. Every center, like check in with your local center. Like they have a lot of resources, and there's a lot of like different communities out there. Almost every major city um has a gaming gay gaming group, and that's a great way to not only get involved but meet other people that share the same interest. And most other like
Like
developers or
developer.
people that work in the industry um you also are part of those groups too. So it's easy way to like get connected.
Does you want to popcorn someone?
Oh yeah.
You should do it.
Let's go to Kayla.
Cool. Yeah. So when I was kind of starting my career, the internet was still pretty nascent in terms of like online resources that were available at the time. So, 100% agree with that kind of finding local centers, finding like local groups and people to support you is just so important. That was really helpful for me when I was getting started. I think nowadays, to your point, there's a lot more gaming focused queer support folks around. There is one group, Gay Gaming Professionals. That's a pretty large organization. They're really active at conferences. And I think they also have some programming as well for students and stuff like that. And so I know that they're huge at like all the big industry events and things. Um, yeah.
Yes, I'm up. I would say, so not a shameless plug for Microsoft, but I do think LinkedIn is a great resource in general. LinkedIn, there's a lot of great LinkedIn groups. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I also make it very well known that I'm both part of the LGBTQIA plus community as well as an activist in my headline. So I would say reaching out to people. Every time I have a student cold reach out to me, I get thrown back to when I was that student cold reaching out to people, and I almost always make time to have a meeting or schedule like a virtual coffee or something just to chat and see how I can help out. So that's one for sure. Uh, I actually recently relocated to Seattle for this role, and so with that, I was kind of looking around what groups, what could I be a part of, and one group I found that was particularly active in general is called Out in Tech. And Out in Tech is great because tech is a really nice tangential industry, especially if you come into a Microsoft. And Kayla, I think was a little bit of your journey, if I recall when we chatted. But coming in through tech and then coming around into the Xbox world and gaming is one way you could do that. And I think there's a lot of transferable skills.
Mhm.
So gaming, just coming straight at gaming, I think is challenging. I had a non-traditional path. I think most people have a non-traditional path into
Mhm.
gaming. I feel like you might be an exception to
Yeah.
that when you started in.
Yeah, I started in gaming and then I kind of had my detour into tech and then got back into gaming. So
I love that. Thank you also for those resources. So I'll be sharing those resources in Discord. If you're not in our Discord, feel free to join. You can do !Discord and chat, or there's a link inside our panels. I'll also post these resources on our website in the future. And yeah, those are really great resources. Thank you so much. We can move to the next question, which is, as someone who has experienced discrimination or challenges in the gaming industry, so what advice would you give to other people who are looking to aspire or pursue a career in gaming or media? And I'll start with Kayla.
Perfect.
yeah, that's great. Um, so I really believe strongly in gaming as a important medium for communication and important medium for creativity and expression. And so I believe that everyone should have the right and the ability to express themselves through gaming. So I believe that everyone should have a space and be able to be doing stuff here. So the space gets better the more of us are in it, the more representation we have across the broad swaths of humanity, whatever that may be. So, my advice is, make your own space and do that. Nowadays, it's the gaming industry has had a huge indie game renaissance over the last kind of decade or so. And so even if you aren't able to move into large publishers or large studios, you can create and express yourself through smaller mediums, whether that's through a creator platform like what we offer on Minecraft or other smaller creator experiences, or just doing your own indie game. There are lots of ways to create and get involved in making games.
Absolutely. I think I really like your point about indie games. I think one of the best ways for folks to get into indie games is like narrative. It's on the lower end in terms of cost. We see a lot of narrative games passing by our Victoria Kennedy micro grant, which, plugging it right here, if you're not familiar, check it out. It will reopen on the 1st and end on the 31st, which I just learned that alternating months have 30 and 31. Of the 33 years of my life, I did not know that.
Do you know the
So,
knuckle? Do you know the knuckle trick?
no, what? What do I do?
January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and then you can tell which month is 30 and 31 based on your knuckles.
I'm just gonna get like a tattoo to remind me of that. So that's amazing. You just taught everyone here something, unless it's just me. In that case, I'm still very grateful. Um, Thank you for that recommendation. I think that's really cool. Is and I don't know if you want do you want to provide more information? How would you mentioned about the creator place? Oops, sorry, there's some feedback. You mentioned something about the creator place for on Minecraft. Where would someone go to do that?
Yeah, Minecraft.net/creator is the place to get started with that, and so you can that links to all of our documentation on how to create and how to do stuff in Minecraft, and we're always evolving that and looking for ways to enable people to create their own experiences in Minecraft.
Thank you. Also, I live near a train. I think I muted it in time, but if not, I live near a train. Sean, do you have um, any suggestions for folks getting into the gaming industry? Any kind of resources or
Yeah.
any advice?
And as it pertains to like navigating potential discrimination in the gaming industry, was that part of the question as well, or just in general?
Yeah, as someone who's experienced discrimination, or if you know someone, not trying to throw you under the bus for that, but anyone who's experienced discrimination or challenges in the gaming industry, what advice can you give them?
Yeah, I think in general, one thing I like to do is one, just kind of look up the company's values before. No job is worth sacrificing your personal values because you're excited about the opportunity. I've had a few really great opportunities come my way in terms of like compensation and prestige, but then like looking at the location and where they are, it wasn't worth the compromise of my authentic self or like where that company was in kind of their POV on equity and inclusion for LGBTQI plus people. So I'd say that. I mean, at Mojang Studios, our purpose is to build a better world through the power of play. And it's all about inclusivity and everybody's welcome. And so that was the first signifier that this was a great place. And in Microsoft's history with LGBTQI plus community in general is impeccable. Um, so those were kind of the primary filters. I think the next really important thing, which people don't realize, is regardless of your company's POV on it, your manager and your skip level manager, so your boss's boss, have probably the most impact on your experience at a company. So even if the company is great, you still have to navigate, is my boss cool? And I test that out in the first interview. I say things like my partner, my partner, my part, he, things like that to kind of check the micro expressions if it's like a Zoom call or an interview, because we all know what it feels like when someone's uncomfortable when we express our authentic selves. So I can tell right away if it's going to be a good thing or not based on that. And then between the company's values and alignment to that, and the perceived future managers kind of reaction to how I drop certain terms and things, I can understand how it's going to be. I think because I do that, I've had a really great experience walking in to most of my roles. Now, again, I spoke about tokenism earlier. That's like that positive. It was token is very like it wasn't negative tokenism, right? It was it was thought in a positive light, and that's harder to account for at some of those micro discrimination moments that you kind of figure that out as you go. And I think as I've gotten older and like that first job, you kind of just want to take it because it's like your way in, and you put up with a little bit more. I think as you grow in your career, you put up with a little bit less because you're like, hey, I have the experience now, and you're out of that whole double-edged sword of needing like I need entry level, I need experience to get the entry level job, but it's an entry level job thing. That's like the hardest thing to get through. But once you're through that, I think it's kind of feeling it out. Me personally, I think again, tips for getting in is just researching. It's having experience. So while I didn't have professional experience in gaming, I'm a gamer. I always have been a gamer. So I played a lot of World of Warcraft. I play a ton of Overwatch and things like that, right? A ton of Minecraft, of course, with my partner in creative mode because I think Survive the Night stresses me out too much and I want to zone out and build things. But I would say it's really that interview process and stage is super important. So once you get to that point, you're in a good place, and then it's really about remembering that interviewing is a two-way street and not just saying yes to everything you hear.
That's such good advice. That's what I do as well. Well, what I used to do. This is my full-time job now, so I don't think I have to do it for a while. But I would used to go in and like wear a queer shirt and
Mhm.
have I have you can't see it, but I do have my ears stretched, so I have like earrings, and so I make sure people could see that and have showing my tattoos and just making sure folks could accept me for who I am on like face value. And then of course, like what you mentioned, that's such good information. Like being your true authentic self in the interview means that there's going to be almost no surprises down the line. So I appreciate that so much. And then Pup, if you could answer this, for folks that are experiencing discrimination getting into the gaming industry, and feel free to plug Qweerty if you want. Do you think anyone we've worked with, do you have any advice that like maybe they could utilize? I'm sure we've spoke to don't name folks, but like is there something that you could like advise folks?
Well, I mean, I think Sean honestly like capped everything perfectly, like 100%. If I were to say anything, I would say exactly what Sean said. Be your authentic self, like in the interview, and choose yourself versus the job. So yeah.
Consider it stolen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, the thing is, if you mask who you are in the interview and you get that job, you didn't get that job. Whatever code switched version of you got that job. So that's what you're going to have to be comfortable with
And you're not
displaying
going to
when
be
you get.
happy.
No, like, you just won't.
And I love that you mentioned code switch. That's actually a new term to me. I didn't know that. I think I've done it before. For anyone who's like listening, and if you want to, if anyone here wants to add on, but basically you're just kind of like switching your mannerisms and
Mhm.
even the tone of your voice and um, just to fit in. And sometimes you don't even notice it. I'm sure I've done it. Um, you might do it like with
Go
your
through the
family.
drive-through. Go through the drive-through and watch yourself. That's how you can tell.
That's true. And I think sometimes there's like necessary code switching, which we all do as humans, which is like my out of work Sean versus when I'm presenting to my team versus when I'm presenting to executive leadership. It doesn't mean hiding my LGBT side. It's just I might say things a little differently in front of my audience, right? But then there's the other side of code switching, which I think is minority groups that we do. It's like slay at the bar and at work. It's like, oh, that's great, you did a great job, right? Like it's like that very different side of it to be aware of. I will say at Minecraft, I have said back to a heterosexual male already, slay with a good idea. So I feel very comfortable in my current role being who I am, but it also is great being cognizant and just from a professional standpoint when you're presenting and things like that, having a little bit, but you don't want that to be your life, and you don't want it to mask who you really are. I think is the key part of it.
Absolutely. Uh, I'm going to move to this next question, which is one of my favorite questions. In your experience, how important is it for the gaming and media industry to have diverse representation, including LGBTQIA voices and stories? What impact do you think that has on the industry as a whole? And whoever would like to go first, I will popcorn if you want. Okay,
I'm
I'm gonna.
happy. I'm happy.
Yes,
I'm
Kayla.
happy to go. So like I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm super old. But like already it's been like transformative. Like the fact that we have a lot more diverse individuals working in the industry, and we have the gaming public wanting more diverse stories in gaming, it means that the content being created today is significantly more diverse and more inclusive than it was even 10 years ago, but definitely 20 years ago. So like we're already having a huge impact. And I just see that getting better and better over time. The more having more representation in gaming will mean having more diverse representation up on stage at industry events. Having more diverse individuals in gaming means more diverse individuals making decisions at the key moments when we're making new products. And having more diverse gamers and players means that the industry itself will be larger and will have more content that wants to appeal to them. So, like already, like the indie scene continues to be like that leading target of kind of what the type of content that the industry is making. But we are seeing the AAA kind of big industry folks also follow that. Xbox has a lot of diversity initiatives and really works hard to push the boundaries of the types of content that they're publishing. And again, like that is because we have more representation in the leadership and more representation in the industry, but also because gamers and all the folks wanting to buy games are getting more diverse and are expressing that they want to see that more diverse content. So hugely important. We're on the right track. Let's just go faster and go more.
Yes, and you just
Faster.
yeah, it's faster. You reminded me. I got this. Speaking of
Yes,
Xbox, so this is the
so
Pride
good.
controller from last year.
Yeah,
We did like a little. We gave them some. Well, we didn't give them, but we recommended some folks to give their own stories, and I thought that was really cool. So I love this
mine's
controller.
downstairs. Mine's
Yeah,
downstairs.
I use this all the time. It's like my
They
favorite.
so we got for everyone part of the LGBTQIA plus community on Xbox internally. We all got one for free last year, so it was so
Yeah,
nice. What a lovely
yeah,
gift.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I think you're right. The indie the indie scene has really been pushing the envelope,
Mhm.
and I think that's really setting the bar and the example for the rest of the industry. So I'm really thankful for, and I'll mention one game that I really love, which is Stardew Valley, and that
Yes.
was honestly the first time it was one of the biggest moments for me where I felt seen in a game where I could just
Mhm.
date whoever I wanted to date.
Mhm.
Um, and there also is there's a book called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels that
Mhm.
they interviewed the dev, and the original creator of Harvest Moon really was impressed with the developer Concerned Ape, and so I was just like, that's just
Mhm.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
So hats off to everyone who's working so hard in the industry, especially the indie scene, for making this all happen. Yes, fast. Let's do it. Sean or Pup, whoever wants to go next. Sorry, my microphone does not like me today. I'll speak a little softer. We'll do some ASMR. For anyone who wants to go next, same question. How important is it for the gaming and media industry to have diverse representation? Like, what do you think
Yeah,
that has done?
I'll go next since Sean will probably steal my answer anyway. So, um, I mean, from a consumer standpoint, I think that it's very important to feel seen, right, and to feel connected and represented. When, especially like growing up, I feel like all of us have faced some point of our lives where we felt very isolated and disconnected from friend groups that we were not necessarily a part of or anything. And so to be able to play a game and to escape and like to feel like you are not the weirdo, you have this video game character that this is the normal, and I think that's just very important. I know it definitely helped me growing up, you know, playing and seeing some of those games, and I've heard stories from other people too. So
This time I'm going to say, my answers were stolen. But I think it's super important. Like one game in particular I'd mentioned, I played a lot of Overwatch. So like learning that Soldier 76 was gay and that Tracer was a lesbian, like in such a big game, was like my Soldier 76 is my favorite character by far to play. It's just so simple but fun. Or he is so simple but fun. But I think in general, like learning the backstory that coming out that way was super cool. I think it's also really important to recognize that the community, the gaming community as a whole is super diverse. There's a big misnomer, right, that gaming skews incredibly male, but like recent data that I've seen, both from our platform partners and social, the Metas, the Twitters and TikToks of the world, right? We work a lot closely with them. They are able to give us a better read on who's consuming gaming content, and it is like 55-45 male female split. So it is definitely like if studios aren't getting on board with representation, they're going to miss out, especially with Gen Z. I think it's like figure it out now, or be swallowed up by an indie studio that gets a hit. I mean, Minecraft Mojang started out as an indie studio built
Mhm.
around inclusivity and blew up because I honestly believe because of our platform of being so inclusive and creating your own world, and just the values that we hold as a studio and as a company. So I think the blueprint's there, and I think other studios are starting to catch on.
And without Minecraft, I don't know if everyone knows this, without Minecraft, we wouldn't be an organization. We started out as a Minecraft server, and it's on our website if you look at our press kit. But yeah, we started as a Minecraft server, and then we started fundraising for other like nonprofits before we were one. So like National Center for Lesbian Rights and the Trans Latina Coalition. And then someone in our community said, "Do you want to be a nonprofit?" And I said, "Okay." So like, look at what like I love like if you could change affect the life of one person, and then that whole thing changes. So that like hats off to Minecraft just for that. I can't imagine all the stories that I don't know about of like people's like
Mhm.
life changing experiences. Um, and then also to your point, Sean, yeah, like diversity equals money anyway at this point. We see it even with Chick-fil-A hiring a diversity manager or a DE&I manager, VP rather. Oh, someone wants me to stretch the chat, so I will. So there is this I think misconception that it's risky to invest in a queer game, which is just not the case. At least not anymore. There is such an audience for it, and um, I mean, if you even go to a Pride, you'll know. Like a lot of folks, there are allies now. Like it's people support us. When I posted about we just got back from San Fernando Valley Pride, and I was mentioning to one of these groups called Buy Nothing because we needed a canopy to borrow, and I didn't even mention it by name. I was just, oh, we're gonna have Pride in the city, and everyone was like, can you tell me? I want to know more. I want to go and support. So yeah, I think Sean, you hit it right on the money. But literally, it makes sense to just be diverse at this point. Not because not only, and this is I think my most important point is that it will help people feel seen in games, especially in other parts of the world where it's still hard to come out and sometimes deadly to come out. So I think these games and these communities are so important when they're super supportive. I loved all your answers, and I love like 40 minutes into these Q&As. I don't know if I've ever said this, but this is where like it gets really really like, oh, I love it. Like we're like going back and forth, and we have all these like conversations, and I'm like, oh, hi chat, like how's it going? I'm stretching. Uh, so let's move on to this next question. And by the way, if anyone in chat has a question, if you want to ask it, put it in chat, and then I'll have Sean or Kayla let me know if they want to answer it, because I don't want to put them on the spot. Because I'll answer a question, but I want to make sure they want to be comfortable answering the question. So I would like to move on to our next question, which is, could you share any specific projects, initiatives, or resources that are aimed at supporting LGBTQIA individuals who are interested in getting involved in the gaming industry? So that could be from Minecraft, or that could be separate, whichever. Feel free to think about it. We could do a nice stretch while we wait. There you go. There you go. That's always important. Make sure my watch tells me to get up every hour, so make sure to do that. Thank you, Chris. Yes, Chris is in chat. Here, let me reread the question, and I'm gonna maybe answer too. Could you share any specific projects, initiatives, or resources that are aimed at supporting LGBTQIA individuals interested and involved in getting in the gaming industry? I could tell you right off the bat, ours is the Victoria Kennedy Micro Grant. We give up to $1,500 every 3 months to people that are making games. They use that for like art assets, sensitivity training. Probably if you could probably afford like a voiceover or two. It really just depends on the game and the scope. And like I mentioned, a lot of our games that we support, their budget is anywhere from 10,000 to like 100,000. So it's not paying for the whole game itself, but it definitely can help, especially if you are having trouble reaching your stretch goal, or you just maybe want to add something extra. Anyone have an answer to that now?
I'm gonna go back to just like involving yourself in LinkedIn and or like it's networking at the end of the day is one, or through nonprofits like Qweerty, Out in Tech, Out Professionals, things like that. Building a personal relationship with somebody in the industry is invaluable. Like I know that when people add me, if I see a job, I'll post all of the jobs on my LinkedIn. If it's about raising funds, I think you gave a great example of how your organization has a grant. I think there are definitely more grants out there if you research as well. So it's not just applying to one grant; it's probably applying to dozens of grants and seeing what you get, similar to like college scholarships, right? So I think there's different ways. I think it's not a one size fits all approach. I think you should be doing all of it. So getting that grant, going on LinkedIn and finding people, again, cold mailing executives on LinkedIn works. It does, especially if you're younger and it's a compelling story, newer in your career, I should say, versus just age. But in general, I think we get so many spam LinkedIn messages. It's like, buy this now, or I'm a vendor trying to sell you some SaaS software, like the typical tropes that when I see a message get through that's like, hey, I just graduated from this program and I'd love to learn more about your job. I'm like, yes, I would love to talk to you and give you some of my time. And I think that's how, once you make that personal connection and someone jives with kind of what you're all about or what you're trying to do, they'll go the extra mile to help you out or introduce you to somebody else. And it's kind of that like series of introductions that eventually you find the one unlock for the person that's going to help you achieve what you're looking to do. But I can't express like the importance of like how important that is to do that.
That I love that answer, and I do get a lot of spam on LinkedIn, but I still read. I always want to try and read those little messages because I want to make sure I'm not like marking someone as spam when they're not. So totally, I think that's great. Like that's great advice. Like cold call CEOs or whoever you're trying to contact and put like a really heartfelt message that means something like, "Hey, I just graduated." Yeah, that's perfect advice. I appreciate that. Um, Hop or Kayla, is there any initiatives, projects, resources aimed at supporting LGBTQIA people getting involved in the gaming industry? Um, I know we're going to be talking about employee resource groups in a moment, so it's kind of
Yeah.
overlapping. Some of these questions do overlap. So feel free to, if you want to reiterate anything, that's totally fine.
Can we go back to the whole, um, it's now we're kind of winning capitalism right now with like inclusivity and like it's now kind of like the trend is in our favor, and so I think they're like just getting started in the gaming industry is probably one of the most important things. And so I think a lot of groups out there are going to be inclusive. And so just joining any of them that kind of meet your needs. I think a lot of them are going to find, you're going to find a lot of similar type people in them nowadays. So kind of finding that group of whether it's indies or what have you, just getting involved. For me, one of the biggest piece of advice I have for people who want to get involved in the games industry is to just make games. It used to be many, many years ago that you couldn't make a game on your own or with small people. Like you'd have to like join a big company to make a game, but that's not true anymore. You can put together a small group of people. You can game jam on the weekends. You can do all kinds of things. In fact, I found out about Minecraft originally because of the indie game community and when Minecraft was being built, it was being built by folks who also did 48-hour game jams, which I was also doing at the time. And so, one of the most important things for getting in the industry is to make games. And there's a lot of resources out there in terms of how you can get started with that. So find a community, find something that works for you and drives for you in terms of making games and getting that experience, because that's going to be the most important thing. And then, I think Sean really covered it. Networking is also super important. Yeah.
I think we covered both sides of that, right? Because I'm on the non-technical side
Yeah.
of it. I'm in the community group, so really nurturing. So I personally oversee like our TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch channels, and I work very closely with our other groups. And so I came in through having a similar discipline, right? I've done social and brand my whole career. So how do I apply that then to this use case, which is gaming? Which has been really great. There's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. So I feel like I'm learning new things. I think if you are messaging one thing, executives or anybody on LinkedIn, it's really good to have a clear ask. We get asked a lot of things, in general. And so when I message somebody who's like a VP level or higher, I always try to have what do I want from them, or what do I specifically? If it's too open ended, it can feel overwhelming, and then they just ignore the response because like I'm super busy. But if it's like I want to talk to you about this specific thing, like how do I get into social media marketing in gaming? This is my background, right? And it's very clear what you're asking, goes a long way as well.
I think those are great points. And to Kayla, to your, I want to follow up on your answer really quick,
Mhm.
and kind of both of your answers. And Puppy, if you have anything, definitely let's talk about it in a moment. But yes, definitely networking, and that's kind of how I got my foot into the. That's how I got my foot into the door. I joined a queer gamer group, and there's a lot of overlap between gamers and developers. So I was in there, and someone said they had a job that they needed to be filled, and I was like, I'll do it, and that was QA. Um, But then also, I'd love, Kayla, if you could maybe give anyone advice about how to find a game jam.
Hmm.
Who can get into a game jam? Do you need technical background, or can you be like a writer? Like, what are the requirements?
Oh, good question. Yeah, there's a number of game jam communities that exist out there. I don't have a list handy of all of them right now. So the one that I used to do all the time, and I still recommend highly, is Ludum Dare. They do 48-hour game jams. I think 3 times a year is when they do it. And there's two different jam. There's like the strict 48-hour game jam, and then there's the more loose 4-day game jam that they do as part of it. They have communities that allow people to kind of get together and find people, and you can kind of make your own team, or you can do it independently. But even if you're just a writer, like there's a lot of good game making tools that exist out there today that would allow you to make something. Is really getting started with making games is all about kind of setting your scope down to where your skill set is at, and then you can always build up from there over time. Um, so like back in the day, it used to be like Twine was a good like narrative driven game tool you could use. I'm sure there's a lot more of them nowadays. Um, Global Game Jam is another great example of a game jam that happens annually. And there's usually local groups that meet up for global game jams, and community groups that form around that. But yeah, for me, there's nothing better than kind of finding people and just making something tangibly, because that builds really great practical experience, and gets you involved in the community there as well.
I love that. Thank you. That's really useful information. We'll definitely be clipping that. And I'll try and add that to our Discord as soon as possible. Pop, I don't know if you mentioned this. You also are a streamer. Um, and so maybe I think one thing that you could talk about that's aimed at supporting LGBTQI plus individuals who they want to get into the gaming industry. Um, I think it'd still be good to talk about this because there's an overlap. Is you just got into Rainbow Arcade, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
talk about that or any other initiatives, um,
Well, I think um just like pulling back like just the base level, like if there's something that you want to do and you're passionate about it, do it. Like I think to Kayla's point, like there's when you're excited about doing something, you want to do everything all at once. Like just focus in on what you can do now. Like don't focus on the big picture, right? Because you're gonna get a little bit overwhelmed of like you can't do everything all at once. You need to learn, you don't have the education. Do what you can now, and the simple thing you can do is create a free account on Twitch and start gaming with people. You like games, you want to build games, game with people. And on Twitch, there's so many different types of streamers. I know that at GDC, I met a few streamers that are developers, and they do some education on their stream specifically, and it's a great way to like just break into some of those communities, as well as maybe go to a convention like GDC and talk to people. Don't just go to the convention and pick up some pamphlets. You got to talk to people, and you find out what they know and make friends, and it's all about networking.
I think that's like I really love the answer you just gave, and that now I want to kind of combine all three of your answers. Is even like game devs will stream making games on Twitch.
Mhm.
So that's like I'll name drop somebody right now that we met at GDC, and we've seen them consistently every year, and that's Bad Cop, and she streams her creations online. She does have an itch.io, and what she does, yeah, she'll just like be making games live, and I'm like, that's so cool. So highly, and then if you have the time, get some clips of you making those games and put them on TikTok, because that's how you can network nowadays, especially
Mhm.
if you live in a more remote area. Because like I think we're all at this point in our lives, I think we're all really lucky. We all live in like major cities, but it's a lot harder, as I'm sure we all know. It's a lot harder if you live in a smaller city. Um, so yes, take advantage of Twitch, take advantage the platform we're on right now, take advantage of TikTok, anything that you can do to get your work out there and have fun. Yes, I love that answer, Pup. Thank you. Uh, so this is the next question that I think might bring up some employee resource groups discussions. Come on, is it Rainbow Mob, right? I love it. Okay, so How do you think the gaming and media industry can be more inclusive and supportive of LGBTQIA plus individuals? Are there any specific actions or changes you would like to see implemented? Anyone can start. I can popcorn. I will pick. We haven't started with Pup. Pup, how can
No, I was the first person you started with. So
really? Oh,
yes.
okay.
Play the
Okay.
VOD. Play the
Okay.
VOD.
Okay.
No. I'll go. I'll go. Fine. Like I'm not. Again, I'm not in the gaming industry.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're in this nonprofit. You are our director of
that's true.
operations.
Okay. Well,
And you're a streamer, a great streamer. You make great content. You stream every day. So don't. No.
Well,
You
thank
are
you.
part of this industry.
I don't make games. How about that? I think that if you ever, the best way to feel supported is to be in a group of people that is like-minded, right? Enter some of these queer spaces that are available. I'm gonna just go back to Twitch. Like there's tons of groups. And even at Qweerty Gamers, we have an industry channel in our Discord. We have a support channel. We have so many people that are in there that are willing to help. If you have a question, if you're feeling not supported at work, while we might not have the exact resource group you could go to or like outside source from your company, someone in there might. So it's just getting involved in some of those groups would help, and especially like our Discord in particular.
Yeah, I think definitely like collective action, right? Like when we come together, if we want to see a change in the industry, I think it's definitely a good place to start. Like kind of like the employee resource groups, kind of, our group, how it turned in from what it was to what it is now. So if you definitely want to see changes, you can't do it by yourself. You've got to have folks behind you who agree with you, and you need to make allies along the way, because without us being together, we're not going to get anything done.
Yeah, and don't stay quiet either. I feel like often a lot of times people have really good ideas or really good wants, and someone has to be the first to say it. No one's gonna popcorn us in real life. So yeah, don't be afraid to say something.
John or Kayla, so maybe you could talk more about how the employee resource group works if you're allowed to talk about it. I'm not sure how, like, what the inside and outsides look like, but for any of the outside stuff, is there anything that you could talk about, like how does the ERG implement change, or is there anything that you want to see in the industry as a whole get better or change?
Do you want to start with that one, or do you want me to start with that one? Oh, you're muted.
Why don't you start with Rainbow Mom in particular, because I'm a newer member, and then I can talk about like what I think the importance of employee resource groups in general are after.
I'm also going to start kind of more in general because I've been at Microsoft now for 6.5 years, and so it wasn't just the Rainbow Mob one with Mojang I've been involved with, but Microsoft is actually incredible. Like there's just a ton of employee resource groups, both at the upper Microsoft level, but then each individual smaller team also has their own groups, which is amazing. Like for the first 16 years of my industry, I was never at a company that actually had employee resource groups. And so like to see such a large company like Microsoft kind of put effort and priorities behind that is huge. And I think there's like two big things that that come from this. One is like giving a community, a place to kind of go and feel like there's like-minded people that have like-minded issues or challenges where they can kind of go and chat and give them a lot of advice. I'm in a trans ERG at Microsoft, and there's all kinds of advice in there, like how to navigate transitioning at work, medical advice for different cities in the world, all kinds of great stuff right there. So like ERGs can provide that kind of sense of place and sense of home for employees to make them feel more welcome and feel more comfortable in the workplace. But the other thing that ERGs are really powerful for is companies to get their work done and get kind of coalesced opinions on things to help make really good decisions. And that's one thing that I've seen a lot at Microsoft Xbox and Mojang as well, is the use of ERGs to make really good decisions. So like you handed up that Pride controller went through the ERG groups here to kind of vet the design, make sure that it was inclusive, make sure blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. If you remember when that controller design was introduced, I think 2 years ago, it was a very exclusive design that was only available to certain people in the industry. And it was the internal ERG here that then pushed and helped kind of make that more of a product that could be more widely purchased by a lot of people. And so you kind of see that kind of two-phase thing that ERGs do here. One is it provides a great kind of home for employees to kind of feel more welcome, help them with the company that they're at, but then also it gives the company a lot of benefit because it can be a resource for, hey, I don't really know how to make good decisions regarding this this topic. Let's pull together some like-minded people, some people who have lived experience in that area to help us make some better decisions there.
I love that. That sounds super important work. And like that's why I'm really glad you talked about ERGs. Sean.
Yeah, I think also they're so Microsoft takes ERGs very seriously. I think at Pride I had heard, they read the floats or the marching groups that go by. When we were walking by yesterday as Mojang, I'm pretty sure I heard the announcer in the line saying Microsoft has had Gleam, which is Microsoft's gay. I think it's originally stood for gay and lesbian employees at Microsoft. Now it also has the disclaimer that it's LGBTQIA plus underneath it as well. But I think they said it was formed 30 years ago, that it was having its 30-year anniversary, which, like, if you think about 30 years ago in the 90s, when some incredibly regressive laws were happening on the books at the city, at the local level across different states and things like that, it's quite impressive. Microsoft's commitment. What I also really love about Microsoft in general is kind of they have the global kind of Microsoft employee resource group that's clean, but then Xbox has a group, and so does Mojang. And I think it's important because you could argue, well, hey, are you duplicating efforts is a very corporate thing to say, or could this be served with what is it better to kind of build scale in a group? And I think it's funny because I'm a member of all of them, and I think it's great because I have very different purposes for each, but I have a place to be supported in each phase. So like even for this, when I was kind of working with my team to figure out how are we going to support on social media, like who are we going to bring in, I brought it by the Rainbow Mob and said, who wants to join? This is what we're up to. Also, it gave an opportunity for feedback, like, in general, like if there were any questions that they thought would be interesting to talk about, if anybody wanted to participate, etc. So I think they're super important. And then even at a higher level, in previous companies, I've actually been part of groups, and I'm sure this has happened at Microsoft as well, but like leading policy change at the corporate level. So one example, I worked for several large retailers, one of which had a pharmacy. My really good friend who worked for the company had an issue getting some LGBTQIA specific medication at the pharmacy. The pharmacist, it wasn't a great experience. We'll just leave it at that. And so I leveraged my co-chair position as the head of the ERG to spearhead a project where we actually did sensitivity training for like 2,000 pharmacies. And it was all done. How do you interact with LGBTQI plus patients going to get their medicine at the pharmacy? What is the correct way to do that? So that was done, and it was a really cool experience because here's a group that like literally changed company policy. They did that also with same-sex partner benefits, like what needed to be true and like what needed to be offered to be true parity between the heterosexual benefits and LGBTQIA plus benefits. So they're great for also, they're not just clubs, they're great for meeting like-minded people, but they're also great for truly being kind of an internal advocacy group. You're the corporate activist in that group. And it gives you like the sign to hold up to say that, if things are going wrong or when things are going right, just giving that perspective to leaders at all times.
I love that, and I never had the chance to be part of an ERG. I hope that everyone gets that experience when they join the gaming industry. But I think what you're saying as well is like it's not just super validating, but actually like real like impact and change can occur when you have an employee resource group. So my suggestion would be that for anyone who's listening, especially if you have some kind of like power at your company, is try and get an ERG. Um, if and if you need to reach out to anybody, feel free to reach out to me, and I can help in any way I can. But I think these are just super powerful, like kind of what I mentioned earlier, collective action, coming together, like you mentioned, like even helping people in their daily lives, like with medication and whatnot. I think that's super cool. In 30 years, that's amazing. Like I think it was almost born 30 years ago, so that's really cool. I love that this work has been going on, even and of course, like I can't not mention Stonewall. Like this work has been going on for so much longer than I think any of us, but I think the work continues, and I'm super excited to see it in gaming. Um, so I want to give you a preview of our last question so that you can start thinking about it. So don't answer it right now, but I always like to leave off with a happy question. So, what are some memorable moments or experiences you've had as an LGBTQIA individual working in the gaming industry? Are there any heartwarming or inspiring stories you'd like to share? So let that simmer for a moment. That's going to be our last question. Um, Besides also, signing off, see if there's any kind of way to contact you outside like Twitter or something. Not that we use Twitter here, but if you want to talk about that, that's totally fine. But okay, so let's go to this next question. So let that simmer. What advice would you give to LGBTQIA plus gamers who may be struggling with self-acceptance or facing challenges in expressing their identity within the gaming community? I know it's a deep question, but I think it's be super important for folks that are in a lot of parts of this country. I won't name specific states, but there are states that are regressing in terms of queer rights, and I'm confident that will change in the future, but we just have to get over that hump. So in the meantime, yeah, what kind of advice can we give folks? Anything that you might have. I am not calling people old. Someone just said I'm calling people old. Nuh-uh.
I'm calling myself old.
There you go.
I mean, um, I could start with that. I think one is uh it gets better. I think there's a whole it gets better project around it. Uh it's get used to hearing no. I think you're gonna get, and I tell my team this even on non just anything that you want to do in life, get used to like the 99 no's, because when you get the yes, don't give up. The yes is so worth it. Um, what I envisioned for my life 10 or 12 years ago looked entirely different. If you would have told me today I would be doing social media for Minecraft, I would have been like, huh? What are you talking about? So I think it's going with the flow of the journey, your own personal journey. Stop comparing yourself to others. That is one I am still working on. Trust me, I just went down a rabbit hole the other day looking at all of my high school bullies on Facebook and seeing what they looked like now. But did it bring me any joy? No, I just wasted a bunch of time. So still working on that lesson. Fun fact, they're not doing great. I don't think it pays to be a bully in high school. But anyway, taking my own advice there, not comparing yourself to others. Just I hear a lot of no's. It's silly and kind of a little cringe to say never give up, but it's true. And my dad instilled that on me, is he's like, the one thing you always have to do no matter where you are in your life, even if you're at rock bottom, is just keep doing something. Every action you put out, you'll get something back for it. So if you even take a small step every day, it looks like nothing in that day, but over a year or 2 years, those small steps really add up. So as silly as that is, I would say that would be my advice, for anybody trying to get in there. Expect discrimination. It's unfortunate I have to say that. Expect dealing with it. I mean, I had to think even coming on here today, right? In my mind, you always have that kind of that thought. P&G had a really great campaign called The Pause, where as LGBTQ people, we have to think about every time you want to hold your partner's hand in public, you have that moment of pause. Every time you do something as an LGBTQI person, really, you have to have that pause. Am I safe? Am I going to get, somebody saying something? And I think you just have to live in the discomfort of that. It's just part of it, unfortunately. And that helps with having a really good support system too.
I love that answer, and if I may add a little bit to that, because you remind me of something, and I hope I don't steal your answer, Kayla or Pup. Um, but these folks, when they say these like really mean things, it's not personal, and I'll tell you why. Now, I know it's hard to say don't take it personally because I take a lot of things personally, so I'm not going to say don't take it personally, but if you can, don't. Here's an example. When someone cuts you off when you're driving, they didn't cut you off because they don't like you. They cut you off because they're a bad driver. Um, and so when someone says something terrible to you that's discriminating, it's not because they don't like you per se, it's because they're not the greatest person right now. They might be going through some things. Not that we should validate what they said because they're going through things, but just remember at the end of the day, it's really not about you. It's not about who you love. It's not who you express yourself. It's not your identity. It's they just they don't understand. It's ignorance or arrogance. So I just wanted to add that little thing that helps me at the end of the day fall asleep knowing that really those folks are going through it too. It's just they're taking out on us instead of addressing their problems. I hope I didn't take your answer, Kayla or Pup. Whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with your point there, where if somebody doesn't accept you, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them and kind of what they're going through right now. And I would actually extrapolate that, and the kind of current backlash that we're seeing in many states in the United States, again, have nothing to do with trans people or any other LGBTQIA plus individuals. It just has to do with picking a target to bully at that moment in time, as opposed to anything new related. I was on a panel last week, and one of the points I brought up was, especially as a trans individual right now, it's a weird time because simultaneously we have some spaces getting significantly more safe for us and a lot more spaces getting more safe. But at the same time, there's some spaces that are becoming less safe. And so as a queer individual, you have to kind of figure out what that space is. Is it one that's getting less safe or one that's getting more safe? Good news, though, is there are more and more spaces becoming significantly safer for us. So if you feel like you're in a not safe space or a community, especially in the gaming world, there's a lot more welcoming communities that you can join that would be accepting, that are going in the right direction. We've talked a lot that the trend lines of society are in our favor right now. And so your odds are good that you can find a really good community to be a part of, that accepts you and is able to help you on your journey. And if you feel like you're in an area, if you're in a community that's not doing that, then find a new community or start a community or any of those things. I think also what helps is, that self-acceptance bit and getting comfortable with yourself, so you can be a member of that community. And especially as you're trying to figure out who you are and how to relate to the world, as you're coming out, finding a local community is really, really important. So you can kind of talk to like-minded individuals, and that can really help help you with that self-acceptance piece. So getting good with yourself will help you deal with any sort of negativity that exists out there. But if you're part of a negative community, leave it behind and join something positive, because there's tons of them out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like I'll I think that at the end of the day, to your point, like love, right? And we need to love ourselves. We all have one life. We have absolutely one life. Me, myself, I have one life. You, yourself, have one life. And you have to love yourself first. You don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't. It's your life. So when you hear a lot of things coming at you from all these different areas, uh, it 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 sucks. It does, and it hurts. And it can get you down, and it's hard to say like, oh, don't listen to it. But honestly, at the end of the day, you have to, that's their opinion. You have to live your life, and you can't live it underneath someone else's opinion. You have to love yourself enough to make your own opinion about who you are, and how you choose to live your life. To that point, the gaming community is also very digital. Like, you might be in an area where there's no outlet, there's no group for you, and Twitch again, Discord communities, different streaming community. Like, get in there, like play games. Like, I feel like. Yes, we're talking a lot about like the industry and everything, but also like just play games, and get in these streaming communities. There's tags now on Twitch. You can search, gay, LGBTQIA plus. Get into those communities, watch those streamers, get involved, and maybe you won't get super involved in the community specifically, but you might make a friend, and then that friend will have friends, and then soon enough you're like meeting people that are doing the same thing you're doing. Just know that no one is alone. And again, like, this is your life. Don't waste one moment of your life not loving yourself.
I love that. And is there a song? It's your life. No, never mind.
I was just thinking RuPaul.
Oh yeah, if you're not gonna love yourself, who else? Yeah,
how are you gonna love anybody else?
Absolutely. That's such a good phrase, and I know it's like it's funny now, but it's so true. It's so true.
Amen. Okay, those are such good answers. We have one final question before we have our sign off. And for everyone who's watching, thank you so much. By the way, I just want to say thank you. If you like something you see, make sure to clip it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go through it later and clip it as well. So, help me. What are some memorable moments? This is something I asked earlier to let it simmer. What are some memorable moments or experiences you've had as LGBTQIA plus individuals working in the gaming industry? Are there any heartwarming or inspiring stories you'd like to share? So, queer joy, that's what we want to hear right now. Let me know. I want to hear. I want everyone to feel it. Whoever wants to start. Let's do Sean. Oh, you want to go, Pop? Yes.
No.
You're like, I don't want to go first. Play the VOD.
Sorry.
Play the VOD.
Play the VOD.
No, Pop, go first. Yeah, let's hear it.
Can we get a VOD replay?
We have software for
that. Honestly, streaming for me has been such a great experience. It's opened up the door to meet so many people that I would have never met before in these random cities across America and across the world. And I think that being able to bring these people together into a community where we can not only have fun, but like have real conversations and support each other. In my community specifically, we have like a vent channel, and we just like vent all day long to each other, and it's just so nice to be able to like be able to like hear and listen, but also to support your fellow friend. So streaming for me has been such a great experience, and that's why I just really encourage people to get involved in a community. Even though it's digital, it's real. It's real. And every friend that I've made here streaming is real. So
Kayla.
Yeah. So like when I transitioned back in the day, the name of the game for transitioning in early 2000s was to go stealth as fast as possible and then hide that you're trans. So I did that really, really well for a few years. And thankfully, society has gotten better and more accepting of trans people, and I've seen a lot more friends come out. And so I made a conscious effort many years ago to be more public and be more open that I'm trans, so I can be kind of seen. And to kind of be okay with that has been a huge, it's been amazing to see that the gaming industry and just society as a large has been okay with that over this time. being my authentic self, I've also been able to speak at industry conferences. Speaking at GDC was always a dream of mine when I was starting out in the industry, and I've been able to do that a couple times now. And so, being able to be on Minecraft Live was huge last year, and I hope to do that again. But being more of a visible individual and just being my authentic self has been just huge and awesome. And I hope that I continue to do that because I want to impact others. I want to inspire others to make games. That's really what drives me. And so, yeah.
I love it.
I
Sean?
I think for me it's like our community. So being, managing social media for Minecraft, I see like a lot of the comments and things that come in. While there's a lot that's the internet, I think there's a series or a theme of comments and stories that frequently comes in around from queer folks, and it's very much like Minecraft saved my life. And it'll be about how Minecraft was this place for them when they didn't have a safe place, kind of what we've been talking about this whole time. And feeling that energy again at Pride and hearing people say that in person. And then just the feedback we receive even internally. I wear a lot of rainbows. I wear a lot of rainbows not because I want to announce that I'm LGBTQI plus to the world, although I don't care and I love to. That's fine. It's really for that one person in the company that may be struggling with themselves, that when they get on a Zoom or a Teams call, oh my God, I can't believe I said that, on a Teams call, and they get on a, you know what, it's like Kleenex, okay. But anyway, when I get on a Teams call, I know I'm getting shade, I'm gonna get so much shade afterward, but um and they see that rainbow attire and know that it's like a safe place for them to be their authentic selves. And that really paid off. Even in my current role, I've actually had a couple people now come up to me on the side and tell me how much that meant to them, that I was so out and open, and welcome that and their voices, just in the organization. So that was like the highest compliment I could ever receive, is that I made somebody else feel safe and supported. I think another one is around how normal I feel at work. And at the end of the day, I think normal is a charged term. I just want to feel normal. Like, I don't want it to be a thing that I'm LGBT. It just like, I want to be me. And I think Mojang's really given that to me. And I feel very grateful for that.
Yeah. I vibe with that so much because like I want to be, I want to be public about who I am and I want to be authentically me. But at the same time, I just want to do work. I just want to make games. I want to make Minecraft. I want to make it better for everyone. That's my biggest thing as myself without having to think about that.
Well, my queer joy is having started a Minecraft server in 2015, and now we're in 2023, and I'm now doing a Q&A with some devs for a Minecraft. So that's some queer joy right there. So I appreciate it.
I want to thank you though, because it's a lot of work to take something like this off the ground and turn it into a nonprofit. And the work you're doing is incredibly important, and oftentimes thankless when you give back. So I want to give you a million thank yous for just even putting this together and all of the hard work it takes to start something from scratch. It started out of a passion project that is literally so important to this community, and you've grown it into something great. So thank you.
Thank you. And not to keep saying thank you back and forth, but I just want to say, no, I really do appreciate, during our initial calls that you made it very clear you don't want to just celebrate us during Pride. And I think that's what a lot of folks in the community have been saying. We don't want to just see the rainbow logo. We want to see you all here. And I think that's what you made very clear. So I can't wait to work with y'all in the future. I can't wait to see who else you work with in the future. This is really exciting. And I think 2023, I think if anything, it's taught us that we can't just celebrate and fight for ourselves during June. It has to be all the time. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I want to thank you all for being here. And we can definitely do sign-offs right now because I know it's Monday. I'm sure you have emails that you have to read. I'm very excited for July. I'm going to be taking off the 1st to the 9th because this Pride has been so busy. I'm looking forward to a break finally. So I'll give you all a chance to say goodbye, however you want to say goodbye. If you have any kind of social media, or if you want to direct folks to anywhere, feel free to do that. You can. I'll let y'all get the last word. So I'll just say, if you want to reach out to me anywhere, I'm high ratings on everything except Twitter because I don't use Twitter. Um, and Qweerty Gamers, definitely, we're on everything except Twitter as well. So at Qweerty Gamers, feel free to reach out to us. We have a Discord. I'm sure one of our mods will do exclamation point socials right now in a moment. And one more thing is, yes, July 1st. Even though I won't be working, we will have our Victoria Kennedy microgrant, which was named after my mom who passed in 2020. She was an amazing supporter of queer people, and I don't know, she loved games. She bought my partner a Switch, so come on, let's go, mom. Yes, okay, so we can go in order. Sean, do you want to? The mic is
Yeah.
yours.
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. I try to, doing social media for work means I don't like to do it personally. That is a real thing. It's just a lot. So I would say LinkedIn's probably the best for me, and you can find it at Sean Flanery.
Yeah, I'm on Discord. You can find me in various different Bedrock add-on creation communities there as Kayla Sarah, Kayla and I do still live on Twitter. It feels gross to
It's
say that,
okay.
but that
No
is still
judging.
one of the best places to chat with me. And my Twitter is Kayla Sarah, Kaylasara.
No judging.
And yeah, no judging. I mean, you find me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/iPuppy. There's 2 underscores after that for some really bad reason. But you can find me anywhere. Just look for iPuppy.
1 underscore was taken, 3 underscore was taken, so you got 2 underscores.
Yes.
Um, awesome, y'all. So thank you so much. That was our Q&A. Um, Super excited to work with y'all in the future, and stay up to date with our socials that are in chat. Thank you, everyone in chat. We appreciate you. All right, have a great day.